Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd very much like to continue on with our journey, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2022. That brings us to that work which has been designated by Criterion at spine number 1128. This is a work from the year 2020, and the name of the filmmaker is Ekwa Msangi. And the name of the work is Farewell, AMOR. Extraordinary emotional work from the year 2020, and in its really splendid cast we have, for example, Ntari Guma Baho Moina as Walter, and Zainab Jah as Esther, Jamie Lawson as Sylvia. Walter, Esther, and Sylvia. This is the family unit, mother, father, and daughter, that is the focus of this extraordinary tale, or perhaps a series of tales from various perspectives, from the great filmmaker perspective of Ekwa Msangi. This is the work which is Farewell, AMOR. And my goodness, this is a film that I had not seen prior to this Criterion release. And upon seeing it for the first time, and indeed on a number of occasions after having received this in the mail, I was very moved by this work indeed, very moved indeed. I think if we could try to discuss the plot or describe the plot of this film, I think we could again focus in on the family unit. We have the father figure, or the husband, which is Walter, who has been in the United States in this area of New York. And we understand he has been working away from his family, from his wife and his daughter, for a great number of years. They have been in Angola. And he has made his living, and indeed he has made his living both financially and, we find out, emotionally, on his own, independently, away from his family on a different continent, although there is this familial connection. And one day, and this is the start of the film, we see the reunion. After many a year, we see the reunion of Walter on the one hand, and the arrival of Esther and daughter Sylvia on the other at the airport. And indeed, the airport becomes a singularly fascinating and significant image and metaphor that carries so much echo and resonance throughout the film, and indeed parallels, because we see it repeated from various vantage points, which is one of the fascinating aspects of the story structure of the film Farewell, AMOR. But this is a very important image for a number of reasons. It brings together the family in a physical setting. It is, of course, the mode of international transit, which reminds us of the elements of immigration and the type of integration into society, and that society is represented here by the urban society and landscape and societal landscape that is New York, and the ways in which Walter is trying to make his living in this particular setting, and how the arrival of Esther and Sylvia, how he's trying to come to terms with this, to make peace with this, to find a type of feeling of familial unity with his family that is, again, long-standing but also new-founding, because there have been so many years apart between and among these members. And of course, we also have the various other vantage point aspects and viewpoints represented by Esther and by Sylvia, respectively. And we see their coming to terms with this new environment, trying to make do with what this situation holds. And indeed, one of the brilliant things about this work is how it shows in a very universal way the idea of family bonds, the links between it among family members on the one hand, but also at the same time how those bonds seem to be sometimes misplaced. Sometimes there's a sense of being physically together in the same space, but maybe emotionally miles apart. And that is due to the fault of no one who is involved. There's no blame to be had. There's no necessarily types of sort of melodramatic points that are emphasized in a way to create a type of a type of trajectory of melodrama. Not to say that there's anything wrong with melodrama per se, but I think the point of this film is not necessarily to show the various, say, page-turning aspects of the plot that lead to, say, the frictions and the fissures and the breakdown of various familial bonds that would otherwise exist between husband, wife, and daughter in the family unit. Rather, it is the impression of being apart. It is the notion of what it means to try to come together after many years of being apart, what it means to try to have a sense of intimacy when one has not been intimate with one's partner for a long time, and indeed what that means, especially, for instance, in the story of Walter, where perhaps during the years when they've been apart, maybe his feelings of intimacy might have been elsewhere. And so to come to terms with these feelings and emotions and trying to bridge these gaps of, say, emotional distance while trying to reinforce the nature of family and the family unit. This, I think, is a very universal, a very accessible theme, in the sense that I think there is something that is very much of that can be understood depending, or no matter what one's position might be as the viewer of this extraordinary work. So that is one aspect that I think makes it very universal and very accessible. It also does touch upon the nature of, say, the immigration experience, and also the idea of how that either might lead to a sense of displacement on the one hand, but also in a very triumphant way, there might be this sense of belonging, this sense of adapting. And not just adapting, but adapting quite successfully. I mean, we see, for instance, the story of the daughter Sylvia and what she tries to do in her school environment and the people that she meets. There is a way in which she is trying, not to say that her life is not without its struggles and its challenges. Indeed, we do see throughout her story certain challenges and hindrances that might be, and obstacles that might be there along the way, both emotional as well as psychological. At the same time, we do see a sense of a trajectory, her story being an example of possible success. And when I say success, I mean a success on an emotional level, and at a level in terms of individual freedom and satisfaction on the other. And so there is that sense of the immigration story and the idea of adapting to new environments, not always leading to a sense of sorrow and displacement, although there is always the potential of that, but there's also a sense of enlightenment and indeed belonging, and confronting certain challenges, which I think is also a very intriguing and a brilliant aspect to how this story is being portrayed. And also we have the brilliant emotional dynamics, the story between Walter and Esther, and the perspective from Esther's point of view, and her dealings with, say, her conceptions of religion, and how religion plays a very important part in her life, and it's playing a role that is very sincerely important to her, while at the same time might not necessarily be wholly understood by, say, other people in her family, such as Walter. But that is nothing against either Walter or Esther. That is just yet another example of how there might be a sense of an emotional or a psychological rift between characters. That is, as I say, not the fault of anyone in particular, but again, due to, say, circumstances, or being away after many years and trying to come to grips with a sense of togetherness. And that is also a really powerful message of this film, the sense of an attempt of trying to find togetherness. While there might be difficulties, while there might be hindrances, there is also that effort, and the effort of trying to find the sense of togetherness because of the emotional necessity for it. I think is one of the most emotionally powerful aspects of this film, which has so many resonant pieces to it. This is a film about family. This is a film about drifting apart. This is a film about trying to find some kind of common feeling of togetherness. Whether that ability to find such common ground is successful or not, that is one of the aspects of the film. And two, what I love is this film respects and honors each person's own perspective. And we see this in the actual structure of the film in terms of a type of short story type of structure. But it's all coming from, or it's maybe almost like looking at the same set of events from different perspectives, from the perspectives, of each of the family members respectively. And I absolutely love that, because what that also shows is there is this way of looking at a certain set of circumstances from different vantage points, and not any one vantage point is either right or wrong. It is what it is, because that is the nature of being human. Now, I find that to be a very powerful message. I find it to be very artistically rendered in a respectful and in a very earnest way. And there's also this sharp focus that is very, also at the same time, very tender and very warm and loving and very much respectful of all the characters in question. This is a brilliant film. And once again, my first time watching this due to this Criterion release, and I feel so rewarded because of being able to watch this exceptional work from Ekwa Msangi. This is the work which is from 2020, and that is Farewell, AMOR. The Criterion Collection has released this film, Farewell, AMOR, at SPY number 1128, and this is the Blu-ray edition of this work. And it is, regarding the master, we have some information from the insert, which I have taken liberty of removing prior to the start of this video. And it says here, according to the insert, Farewell, AMOR is presented in its original aspect ratio of 2.39 to 1. The film was completed in a fully digital workflow with a fully digital soundtrack. The 5.1 surround audio for this release was mastered from the original digital audio master files. And once again, it is a work from 2020, so it is a relatively speaking recent film given a recent release from Criterion. I must say that this is a work that this release from Criterion is in many ways for me quite the eye-opener. I mentioned earlier that this is the first time for me to watch this work. This is the first time for me to learn about this filmmaker artist, Ekwa Msangi, and there are a number of great supplements and a number of great options that are made available here for purposes of further exploration of this work. So I'm very, very impressed with this release because of the work itself, and also because of the opportunities to be able to explore, Msangi and aspects of the film and production, etc. Now, going to the supplements, the first thing we have is a commentary track. This is a commentary track described as being from 2022, and this is with Ekwa Msangi and Bruce Francis Cole. Bruce Francis Cole is the cinematographer. And so we have a conversation between the two of them here and talking about this film. And this is so brilliant. Once again, this is my first time to hear from Msangi and Bruce Francis Cole, and their collaboration and their repartee and their chemistry is really quite remarkable and quite lovely to listen to. And they have such a mutual respect, you can tell, and they have such a great command over the detail and spirit of this film. And so this is another lovely commentary. What a joy to listen to. For example, Msangi speaks about how what the inspiration of the story was, some of her family members, and about coming together after having been apart for many years. And also the significance of the airport. The airport in question here is JFK Airport in New York. And also, there's an interesting tie that is mentioned here about how the film Farewell, AMOR had been playing on a number of flights and, as a type of in-flight entertainment, which to the great delight and surprise of a number of the filmmakers involved, including Bruce Francis Cole and Ekwa Msangi. And so that leads to a very nice, almost anecdotal type of link between, say, how the film was shown in many aspects, such as on airplanes, the this really significant image of movement and mobility, and the crossing of bodies of water and from different continents to come together. And that is at the very heart and soul of the story. Again, the coming together of Walter on the one hand, and then Esther and Sylvia on the other, and then they're meeting for the first time after many years at the airport in question. And then also having the airport itself being, again, that singular significant image. So it's almost like art imitating life, or the reverse, I'm not quite sure. But I like that interplay between the great detail they found about the in-flight entertainment aspect, airplanes, and also the significance of the airport image and the context of the story Farewell Amour. And also there's a lot of scenes of driving. This is due to the occupation, the job of Walter in terms of his driving the taxi, and also the way in which the landscape of New York is shown. Brooklyn is a very key area, the environment, as we know, and also the apartment as well Walter has, and this is the apartment where Esther and Sylvia come to live. And there is a way in which the apartment also has a sense of separation, even though everyone is trying to live together under one roof, in a manner of speaking. There's also a sense of separation between and among the rooms and the hallway and the corridor. And that also, I think, is showing too the emotional separation between the characters. For example, Walter and Esther, even though they are coming together, there is an emotional separation as shown by how events in the recent past, in Walter's, say, prior relationships, how they are revealed and shown through flashback and very clever uses of editing and the like. So this idea of these cramped structure, or the cramped nature of the rooms, I think, is a physical space that is a type of metaphor for maybe the sort of pressure that these characters are undergoing on an emotional level, and how that pressure seems to be revealing a type of separation and rifts between and among them. And also they speak here, Bruce Francis Cohen and Ekwa Msangi speak about the chapter, the triptych-like chapter structure of the film. This is also very important, again, to show and respect the various vantage points and perspectives of the family members and also the like. So this is a very important aspect. And also there is reference made to past filmmakers such as Yasujiro Ozu, and Yasujiro Ozu references and pillow shots and the like. This is very important. They also make reference to the short film, or the prequel to Farewell Amour, which is something that we can talk about when we go to the supplement sections of this particular Criterion release. And also they talk about communication and also the nonverbal, which also, communication is very important. Communication with words, and also communication via physical, say, expressions. One of the aspects that is very important, especially in the storyline of Sylvia, is the notion of dance and physical expression, or expression of the soul via the body, and how this is a very key component with her story. And this is also having to do with communication, or perhaps on the flip side of the coin, the lack of communication and maybe miscommunication. This is also one of the ways in which emotional rifts are being expressed. So this point in the commentary track is very important indeed. Also, the choice of language here. Sometimes we have the language being expressed in English, other times being expressed in Portuguese, and sometimes, when it's expressed in language that is not English, the choice was made to not have necessarily any type of subtitling, but at the same time, while there might not necessarily be subtitling, there is still the sense that we as viewers can understand exactly what's going on. So this is a very important aspect here. Again, going back to language, back to communication, and this idea of being able to understand, even though maybe the language is something that might not be directly part of one's, say, fluency in a manner of speaking, but still there is a sense of an innate sense of understanding, or the opposite might be true. Going back to the earlier comments about communication or lack of communication, this is very important indeed. Also, this story here about immigration, and also the immigration experience, or the immigrant experience, set against the context of the United States living experience. So a lot of comments are made here in the commentary track about the African immigrant experience is expressed through the story of Walter, Sylvia, and Esther, and the backdrop of the African American experience because this is a story set against the backdrop of the United States and specifically New York. So this is, I think, a really fascinating aspect. Again, character perspectives are very much key, and that is, once again, respected in the way in which the story is structured, this triptych or chapter-like structure, which is very important indeed. So overall, what a great, lovely, and commanding and worthwhile commentary track to have as part of this Criterion release. Please check it out if you haven't already. And continuing on with the Criterion release here, we have, as per customary with Criterion releases, we have a number of really fascinating supplements that accompany this great film and this great Criterion Collection release package. So what are the supplements? Along with the great commentary track, which we just spoke about. So in the supplements section of the menu, we have a number of choices. So first up, we have a number of short films from Ekwa Msangi, and these are ranging in subject matter and scope and sort of cinematic sensibility, visual storytelling sensibility, each in its own way remarkable and very telling of the genius and the talent of Ekwa Msangi and the way in which she is able to express her storytelling in these really captivating ways. So first up in the order here of the supplements is the short film from 2000, or it's described as being from 2016. This is Farewell, Meu Amour. This is approximately 10 minutes. Now this is purported to be a type of film that is related to, or directly related to, Farewell Amour, and I think it's described by Msangi and company in the commentary track, for example, as being a type of short film prequel to Farewell Amour itself. And indeed, we do have a number of thematic sensibilities and similarities with film Farewell Amour. I think one of the key components being the idea of being apart or having to end a particular relationship due to circumstances of family reunion and the like. And this is one of the key components of Farewell Amour, and particularly the Walter storyline. And we have it here in this short film. And it's a remarkable achievement. There is a sense of economy of style on the one hand, but there's also a richness of the palette. And also the emotional landscape is expressed in a very absorbing and a very captivating way. And so we are immediately involved. We are immediately entering into this world. And again, I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. This is my first entry point into the world and the art of Msangi. And so I'm looking at this film Farewell Amour. I'm also looking at these short films, and I am particularly struck by the way in which she is able to traverse this whole range of an emotional terrain in a way that's also very, very accessible and told in ways that I, as a viewer, I think I can feel a type of connection with, or I can, there's a sense of accessibility in that mode of storytelling. So this is one great example of the artistry and craft of Msangi. So there's this short film from 2016, and then the link, of course, with the main feature of the release, Farewell Amour. So that's the first short film. Then, continuing on with the supplements, we have The Market King, Soko Sonko. This is described as being from 2014. This is approximately 22 minutes. And here we have a lovely story, again, about family and about the bonds between parents and children. This time maybe specifically or primarily the bond between a mother and daughter, but also father and daughter, because of this tale of trying to get to the precise place to have the daughter's hair particularly braided or prepared in a certain way. At the market, at a specific market, but maybe due to circumstances that are both maybe an example of human frailty and also comedy and humor, things don't quite go the way as planned. And this shows a very lovingly portrayed, say, relationship dynamic, especially between the father and daughter characters here. And also, again, the command of various components of an environment that tell a story that is also very easy to understand, very accessible, and yet at the same time, there are these elements of humanity that are expressed both funny and understandable understandable communication, miscommunication. This is also part of the key. There's also dynamics of family roles. Maybe one family member has a perspective that might be maybe within the same physical space as another family member, but maybe emotionally, on an emotional train, they are on different planes altogether. And this, I think, can be said to be, again, part of the thematic concern of the main feature of the Criterion release, Farewell Amor. So for these and other reasons, here's another great example. Again, I am continually struck and so deeply, deeply impressed by Msangi. And here's another way in which I feel that way. This short film, The Market King, described as being from 2014. The supplements don't end there, of course, because then we have a third short film. This is described as being from 2011. This is called Suspense Taha Ruki, and it's set against the backdrop of Kenya border. And there is a type of intense situation, socio-political ramifications that are suggested, but the maybe the forefront of the story, again within its running time, approximately 11 minutes, is a type of intense situation of violence and also an emotional intensity and also hidden agendas and danger to one's life and one's self, and how that will be taken care of, if at all, throughout the course of this running time of this short film. And the use of time and chronology is also on display here. Again, we see how time and chronology are maybe bent or are made malleable in the hands of Msangi in the main feature Farewell Amor, and we do get a sense of that also in this work, Suspense. And it's a different type of tale in terms of mood and ambience, but I think there are the same or similar types of sensibilities, communication, lack of communication, things that are hidden from other people despite being physically close in proximity, and the like. And so there is so much a bravura, there's so much on display in terms of the mastery of the craft of storytelling and the visual arts and cinema of Msangi here. And we get in the main feature, we get in these three short films, including this work, Suspense, again described as being from 2011, approximately 11 minutes. Wow, what a wonderful opportunity for me to become to get on this journey, this Msangi journey. And this release from Criterion with these three short films is really helping me along the way here. What a great inclusion. I'm so thrilled and so glad to be able to have seen these short works from Msangi. So these are for anyone who is interested in one's own Msangi journey, in a manner of speaking. So those three films begin the supplemental section of the Criterion release. But then we move on to another supplement. This is focusing in on the actors acting in Farewell Amor. This is described as being from 2022, approximately 24 minutes. We have a number of the players, the actors, being interviewed, and their interviews are edited together in this wonderful supplement. We have Ntari Guma Mbaho Mwaina, who is, of course, the actor who portrays Walter, Zainab Jah, who portrays Esther, and Jamie Lawson, who portrays Sylvia, and they each are interviewed and they give their own perspectives. For example, there's so much mutual respect between and among the actors here. For example, so much respect is given to Zainab Jah and her illustrious career on stage and screen, and how this is, and also too how the story of Farewell Amor could be said to be, there might be links with Zainab Jah's own biographical background too, and so long distance relationships and the like. So this is also very interesting details that emerge in this supplement from Criterion. So that's one example. Another example, we see the actors talk about how they began to prepare for the performances, and how they learn from each other. For instance, Jamie Lawson expresses how maybe compared to the other performers, maybe relatively speaking, she describes herself and admits maybe not having as much acting experience as the others, but that was something that she could build off of. And also too, Zainab Jah could see that in her and see how she was using that to forge her own performance as Sylvia, and how that fueled her own performance as well as Esther, the mother. So this is very much important indeed. So also the idea too about working interviewing with Msangi, Ekwa Msangi, and the great anecdote about how Msangi created music song playlists for each of the characters to build a type of sense of the characters and how the actors could get a sense of the characters themselves, the dimensions, what they were thinking, what kinds of songs they liked. This is building the world in many ways, and through music too. This is really wonderful indeed. They also speak about the dialogue and the dialect and the use of language and how they wanted to get it just right in order to capture the sense of these individual characters, where they came from, and also because too there are some key moments, some moments that are very emotionally intense that take place in a language other than English, so the Portuguese language, for example. And so the actors here describe about how they wanted to get the language aspects right and the dialect aspects right as well. And how that is a reflection of their own backgrounds and their sense of the characters going forward. They also speak to you about, as I mentioned before, the key aspect, which is the airport scene, shot from different perspectives depending on what chapter we are dealing with, again, and the wonderful structure of the film. This idea about the airport symbolizing a sense of hope, desire, and also reality, the American dream made manifest. Also, they talk too about how the physical attributes or the environmental attributes are so important. The apartment being one. This is mentioned in the commentary track, but also here the cramped spaces, the separation, although everything is at the same time in one singular space. So that, I think, is a great metaphor for the family dynamic. People are together, but they are apart at the same time. Working with Bruce Francis Cole, the director of photography, the cinematographer, how there were different techniques. This was mentioned too, I think, in the commentary track. There are different cinema or photographic styles depending on the chapter. So maybe one style had a fixed camera mounting, whereas another style relied more on handheld. So that's, for instance, the difference between, say, Walter's storytelling or the storytelling involved in Walter's story versus the storytelling involved in, say, Sylvia's story. And so this is very key to it. Also gives a sense of togetherness and unity, but also separation at the same time on a visual level and a nuance of subconsciously. So this is also really quite important as well. Jua Li, a very key and memorable person who also appears in the film, in particular the storyline the storyline of Esther. This is Zainab Jah's character. She is also mentioned here, and how she was a local celebrity, and how there was so much warmth and reaction whenever she appeared on screen during screening. So this is really wonderful. Dance too is very much expressed, the importance of dance, again in the context of Sylvia's character, storyline, etc., and how she wanted to get it just right. And also Sundance, how the film was shown at Sundance, and the success and the critical acclaim and the popularity that it received. This is all mentioned here. So this is a wonderful set of interviews with the actors in the supplement. Again, it's approximately, totaling 24 minutes. So please check it out if you can. It is really, really wonderful. And the supplements don't end there too, because then we get deleted scenes. Deleted scenes here totaling approximately 13 minutes. I count about 6 or 7 deleted scenes, and they all serve, there's deleted scenes or outtake versions, as it were. So these are all very fascinating. They do link to things that are ultimately in the film. I should point out that there is, towards the end of this deleted scenes or extended scenes or outtake footage section, there is something about what was perceived to be, or what was conceived as a possible alternate ending to the film, and certain deleted scenes that were maybe excised because of the ending change to the ending that was eventually made for the final film product. So this is also very fascinating, how the film could have turned up in terms of the emotional tenor of such alternate ending versus the emotional tenor of the ending that is struck. Of the emotional tenor that is struck with the ending that we have in the final film itself. So for these and other reasons, we have the deleted scene section, which in and of itself is so fascinating. It also shows the choices that were made by Msangi and company, the artistic choices of what to include, what to leave out, and the order of scenes, etc. Because that's another thing that comes into play. Sometimes we see in the deleted scenes different ordering of scenes and shots that ended up being in the final film product as well. So these and other reasons, great stuff to be included here. And then we have rounding out the supplements a trailer, and it's another great trailer. So we have so many things wonderful going for this particular release. The supplements are one such example. And now let's turn to the insert here, which I've already mentioned I've taken the liberty of removing prior to the start of this video. And it's a fold-out type, and so I'm not the biggest fan of the fold-out type. I personally prefer the staple booklet type, but this is really quite wonderful for many reasons. There are the stills and the look of the film that's captured here as well. It's really wonderful. And the essay coming over, Tiana Reid, another great essay. I mentioned how this is in many ways for me all Criterion releases are learning experiences for me, but this is a great example of that. Some film that I'm watching for the first time, so many short films I'm watching for the first time. I'm learning new things, and the essay here, coming over, this is another great example. I love this essay so much, and I've read it a number of times. Please check out the essay if you can. Tiana Reid's Coming Over. As with other essays, and as I have mentioned in other video discussions on Criterion releases, my suggestion is watch the film first, and then after you've seen the film, you can read this great essay, because there are details about the plot, themes, Msangi, and concerns and themes, and how she deals with them, and the tableau and tapestry as expressed through the various characters, etc. So there are details of plot and storyline, but after you've seen the film, again, please check out the essay. It is definitely worth it. And so here we have another lovely release from Criterion. As I've mentioned before, this was a great opportunity to watch a film that I had not seen. It was a recent film from 2020, and I was thoroughly impressed. It did not disappoint. I watched it a number of times since, and I think I will continue to watch it and try to learn more and try to get more details from this. And again, this is a great package. This is a great exploration, a journey into the works of Msangi, and Farewell AMOR as the main attraction. My goodness, what a great film this is. This is the film at spine number 1128, Farewell AMOR. Okay, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.